You can walk Hadrian's Wall on a calm night and hear footsteps following you. Steady and measured. Stop and they stop. Move and they move. Some people claim they've seen figures in armour, pale faces, expressionless with eyes fixed ahead. Some have even taken photos of them. These are the ghosts of Hadrian's Wall, the soldiers that, according to witnesses, never ended their patrols. In this episode, we're going to follow Hadrian's Wall from east to west, uncovering the ghost encounters, the witnesses who described them, and the evidence that ties those stories to real archaeology. And in the end, we'll connect the wall to one of the most convincing Roman ghost sightings ever recorded, one that archaeology itself confirmed. And if you enjoy exploring the past's darker mysteries, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes just like this one. You're standing watch on the edge of the world. The wind is sharp and wet, cutting across open moorland. To the south lies the Roman Empire, with roads, order and civilization. To the north of you, there's mist, crags and furious tribes who want nothing to do with you. It's the year 122. Hadrian's Wall snakes 117 kilometres from the River Tyne in the east to Solway Firth in the west. Around 10,000 troops guard the wall itself, with more stationed across the province. They're Spaniards, Gauls, Dacians, and even recruits from Arbeia. They drill, patrol, and raise families in the shadow of the cold stone walls. And when they die here, some say their watch continues. So let's follow their patrol route east to west, from coast to crag, and see who's still marching beside us. So we begin our patrol at Arbeia, on the banks of the Tyne at South Shields. This wasn't just any fort, it was the supply base for the entire Hadrian's Wall. Warehouses here could store grain for 40,000 men, enough to feed the garrisons through a bitter northern winter or a long siege. Excavations took place here and uncovered evidence that the fort was home to soldiers from all across the Roman Empire. Archaeologists found inscriptions, pottery, weapons, and personal items that revealed just how far these men had travelled. The name Arbeia itself means Arabia, and it's believed to reflect the presence of troops from the eastern provinces. These were men from places like modern Syria and Iraq who once stood guard on this northern frontier. It's a reminder that the wall wasn't protected by locals so much. It was guarded by men drawn from every corner of the empire. Today, the reconstructed gatehouse rises above the river and shows what Roman authority looked like in stone. Visitors still report fleeting shapes among the ruins. Locals in pubs in South Shields also sometimes talk about soldiers glimpsed in passing. From the coast at Arbeia, our next stop west is Chesters Fort, overlooking the river North Tyne near Chollerford. It was one of the wall's most important strongholds, a cavalry fort guarding the bridge where troops and supplies crossed the river. Around 500 horsemen from the Ala Secundaria Sturm, which was a regiment originally from northern Spain, these men were stationed here. Excavations began in the mid-1800s, led by antiquarian John Clayton, who had owned the estate and spent his life uncovering and preserving much of Hadrian's Wall. His work revealed the commandant's house, barracks, bathhouse and stables, and the finds from those digs now fill the museum that still stands beside the ruins. As with many forts along the wall, Chesters has its share of ghost stories. Walkers after dark report the sound of hooves on the old bridge approach, even though the Roman crossing has long gone. Some have spoken of figures on horseback seen through the mist near the river, or the faint clatter of metal harnesses echoing from the bathhouse. A few visitors said they've even heard voices or marching steps that stop when they stop, the same rhythmic pattern reported all along the wall. Skeptics will call them tricks of acoustics or imagination, but for others, Chesters remains alive with memory. A cavalry garrison still on patrol, still guarding that river as they did nearly 2,000 years ago. And so we come to Housesteads, or Vercovicium, high in the rugged hills. It's one of the best preserved forts on Hadrian's Wall. Excavations between 1898 and 1909, led by R.C. Bosanquet for the Society of Antiquities of Newcastle, revealed the barracks, the hospital, and the communal latrine, and they were all surprisingly intact. Later digs in the 1930s and 70s added domestic finds to this, such as children's shoes, cooking pots, and hairpins. This was proof that families lived inside the fort alongside its 800 soldiers. Housesteads has also been long associated with movement after dark. Visitors describe shadows walking in formation, the metallic clatter of armour on the wind, and muffled voices, possibly speaking in Latin. In Haunted Northumberland, Darren Ritson records modern witnesses who swore they saw soldiers marching alongside the ridgeline at sunset before fading into the dusk. For some visitors, it feels as though the garrison here never left. The Roman routine just keeps repeating between the weathered walls. And from the crags we deviate and turn south to Featherstone Castle, a brooding fortress above the River Tyne. This castle wouldn't look out of place in an episode of Game of Thrones. According to Ghosts and Legends of Northumbria by Tony Little and Haunted Britain and Ireland by Richard Jones, this is the setting for one of Northumberland's oldest tragedies. In the 17th century, a noble wedding was held here. The halls were filled with torchlight and music, the smell of wine and roasted meat. Before dawn, the groom rode out to join a hunt, but never returned. His horse came back alone, with the saddle all stained with blood. The bride wandered the woods for days before she was found dead as well, still in her gown. Locals say these tragic events replay every year. Ghostly guests drift through the courtyard, the music builds, then cuts off mid-note. The torches gutter out and silence falls. The feast ends just as it did the first time, in heartbreak. These sightings are interesting because the wall may have marked Rome's frontier, but its landscape records ghosts from every century. This story is fascinating and I actually might do an entire episode on it, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. But back to Roman England and its patrolling ghosts. We arrive at Milecastle 42, perched on a ridge below Caulfield Crags, guarding a lonely stretch of moorland. Built by the Second Augustan Legion, it once housed only a few dozen men looking north into the wilderness. Milecastles were small fortified gateways built roughly every Roman mile along Hadrian's wall. Each one housed a small garrison and served as a checkpoint where troops could patrol, control movement and access the area north and south of the wall. Once again, this location is known to be haunted. Visitors describe a man here in full Roman armour, visible even in daylight, standing 16 feet above the ground, exactly where the top of Hadrian's wall once ran. He's known as Lucius. His story appears in They Still Serve by Richard Mackenzie, Ghost Trails of Northumbria by Clive Christian, and Haunted Northumberland. The legend says that Lucius fell for a local Briton girl whose brother was a smuggler. She used him to learn the patrol times, then betrayed him when her brother was caught. Faced with disgrace and heartbroken, Lucius took his own life and condemned himself to endless duty. The sightings of him continue right up to the present day. In 2024, a man named Stuart Murray was out filming the Northern Lights near this spot when his camera caught something strange. A faint human shape where no one was standing. "We thought it was sheep," he said, but there was nothing there. It only appeared in one shot. Maybe it was a trick of the light, or maybe Lucius was still on his nightly patrol. But this isn't the only intriguing photo taken at Milecastle 42. In 2024, a visitor named Phil Reed described an encounter captured in a photograph. She said, "My husband is one of those fanatics about taking photos who won't take one if there's a stranger in it. He always waits." So he took a few photos at Milecastle 42. We didn't think anything of it until several weeks later he was going through his hundreds of photos. On the brow of the hill was a figure where there shouldn't have been one. No one else was up there but us. He got me to come and look and blew it up as much as he could. It looked just like a Roman soldier. All these sightings suggest that Hadrian's Wall is built from stone that seems to remember events. Let's take a quick break from our journey to look at what might be causing these encounters. In the 19th century, researchers like Edmund Gurney and Eleanor Sedgwick suggested that hauntings might be emotional recordings, these moments imprinted into the landscape itself. The idea took hold in 1972 and was propelled into the mainstream when Nigel Neal wrote his BBC drama The Stone Tape, imagining a house replaying its own tragedy like a recording. Modern investigators of this idea often point to geology. Quartz, abundant in the wall sandstone, can store electrical energy under pressure. Others note that magnetic fields can stir the brain's sense of presence, making old memories feel alive again. If you're interested in finding out more about these fascinating ideas, I'll add a link in the description below of a deep dive episode I did on the stone tape theory. And so we come to Birdoswald, where the wall climbs above the River Irthing. Early digs here in the 1890s mapped the fort, but between 1987 and 1992, archaeologist Tony Wilmot uncovered timber holes inside the old stone walls. Birdoswald stayed occupied into the 5th century, long after Rome withdrew from the area. Its granaries still stand, its view over the valley remains commanding, and the long stretch of wall here is one of the best preserved anywhere. Birdoswald also has built a reputation for hauntings. Visitors and locals report seeing full patrols of soldiers moving silently among the ramparts, their shields glinting before fading into darkness. Some hear the rhythm of marching boots echoing on still nights, or glimpse torchlight where no one is there. These stories go back generations, from Victorian folklore to modern paranormal groups who still visit the site today. The fort has a unique history. It's a place where life never quite stopped. If the reports are true, Birdoswald's watch has lasted almost 2,000 years. And so we come to Carlisle Castle, keeping watch at the western end of the wall. Built in the 12th century and garrisoned until the late 1900s, it's one of Britain's most continuously occupied fortresses. Its most famous legend tells of a white woman who drifts along the battlements before dawn. A 19th century report describes a sentry challenging her on a foggy, shrouded night. She turned to him, smiled faintly, and vanished. Moments later, he was found dead, rifle in hand, face frozen in terror. Others have seen the white woman moving through the corridors, her gown whispering across the flagstones, her expression unreadable. Sometimes she weeps, sometimes she hums a tune no one recognises. Every generation of soldiers stationed here seems to have its own encounter with her. Always the same figure, always walking west into the mist. And with that, we've reached our final location. Bowes Castle is a Norman fortress built in the 12th century over the Roman fort of Lavatrae. It's actually south of the wall, in County Durham, along the route of the later Roman road to Catterick. Witnesses here have described an entire ghostly garrison appearing in the courtyard. They're silent and deliberate, moving around a single point as if performing a burial. According to local legend, the soldiers buried their pay chests before abandoning the post, and once every century they return to finish the job. It's one of the few hauntings where an entire unit is seen, not just one soldier. And so, from Arbeia to Bowes, the wall feels alive with memory. Some encounters are whispers, others, like Stuart Murray's photograph, seem almost tangible. And then there's York. In 1953, a plumber named Harry Martindale was working in a cellar beneath the treasurer's house when a Roman column marched straight through the wall, knee-deep in the floor. He described their short stature, greenish tunics, and round shields, details that were later confirmed to match Roman auxiliaries. Excavations by the York Archaeological Trust later uncovered a buried Roman road exactly at that depth. Harry's story and the effect that the sighting had on his later life is absolutely fascinating. I've covered his eyewitness account in an episode with a link down below if you're interested in watching. If York was the Empire's command centre, then Hadrian's Wall was its frontier. The same soldiers walked both. If Harry Martindale saw a patrol in York, maybe the footsteps echoing along the wall belonged to the same men, still marching, still waiting for orders that never came. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading your theories. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because there are plenty more mysteries out there. I'll see you next time.